Can you open that side handle? Pull open. Pull. There we go. Yeah. Look at all this crap in here. So what we're going to do, Addie, is we're going to cut the wood to make a shelf that hangs down so we can slide these chairs and a table and mount it up here so it kind of helps organize all this, okay? You going to write it down? All right. Let's get to work. The first thing we're going to do is build a shelf using these aluminum tubes. We're going to mount the brackets to these running this way. Now this is for the bed in this particular unit. There's a bed above, so I know they're plenty strong. Here are the brackets I picked up. I know they're not aluminum, they're metal to aluminum. Technically you should separate that, but that's okay in this situation. It's so minor. I do have some metal screws and we'll anchor those into the tubes. Let's get going on ripping some wood. I'm using 3/4 inch plywood here. Plywood I'm using is actually already finished on both sides. For the runners I'm using some PVC trim. It was left over from some trim siding on my house. I'm just going to mount them to the plywood. I'm going to run a board across here to kind of tie them together and to brace them. Next step, I'm just taking these PVC trim boards and I will screw them down to the boards. Now these are two-sided. They have kind of wood grain on one side and smooth on the other, so I'm making sure the smooth side is facing the table. Just running the screws in here. I'm using a 2-inch drywall screw. I just had it laying around. Plenty strong for this application. The table is a 6-foot folding table I got at Menards. You can get them in any big box store. Most of you probably have them laying around already. And here we go. Here is the stringer. You can see I just ripped scraps to go across. And this is the final product, getting ready to go into the camper. Here I have the brackets installed. I didn't mention this before, but those pieces of plywood are about 7 inches tall. You need to kind of measure your opening. In order to get the bracket screwed in on this side, I didn't have a lot of room, but luckily I had this DeWalt 90-degree angle screw bit. Comes in handy in a pinch for things like this. Getting a little help from a piece of plywood I kind of scabbed together to hold that back side so I could get all these screwed up in there. You can see the brackets are all screwed in place to the aluminum tubing, and there it is. Now I don't have all the screws in place, I just have it tacked in with a few. I wanted to rough fit my table in here to make sure it can fit and slide in and not put a whole bunch of screws in the aluminum if I needed to shift it or move it or whatever. You can see it's a little snug fit. Full disclosure, I probably should have made the sides a little taller to fit down in there. I did not account enough for the distance between the top of the door and where the aluminum tubing is actually at. It's about a 2-inch drop. So if you're doing this project for yourself, just make sure to measure your opening and take that into account a little bit better. However, it actually worked out in the end because it kind of helps hold the table in, and you can kind of angle it down and squeeze it in past the weather stripping there. So I think it's going to work out. I went ahead and took the plastic off as that was kind of binding things up. And here you can see it fits about perfectly. It is rubbing a little bit on the edges of these PVC trim boards. So what I think I'm going to do is get out my flush cut saw, my Japanese saw, and just put a bevel on those, cut them at an angle, and then it should kind of slide real nicely in there. I'll go ahead and get all the screws anchored in and all the brackets tight to the aluminum. Otherwise it looks like everything is working out as it should. As I'm playing around with it here, I'll go ahead and take the opportunity to invite you to like and subscribe to my channel. I try to do a little projects like this, little how-tos, give you ideas on what you can do for your upgrades, and also just talk about different camper reviews, towing information, and etc. Here's a look at kind of the final product minus the bevel I'm going to put on those white runners. Here you go, you can see the bevel is cut, and I just used my Japanese pull saw to do this, and it worked out quite well, quite simple. And here are the final product photos. Everything kind of worked out pretty good. Slides in nice and easy with that bevel. This project took me maybe 2 hours in total. There's nothing really I would necessarily change about this. Obviously you could polish up the edges, do a little sanding, but that's just fine, works good for me. So if you have the space in a storage compartment, I recommend a little project like this to really kind of clean things up and get you a little bit more organized. Alright, that does it for this project. On to the next one. Thanks for watching.